witnesses. I'll now turn the floor over to Mr. Duncan for 6 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for being here today. Mr. Chair, and I want to speak to you and ask some questions about this changing of the election date. You made a few different comments, and it's interesting. You're right, the blowback from Canadians has been fast and furious on this. The NDP today now, they start off all of their comments saying that they have nothing to do with this and they're opposed to this now, despite we finding out last week they had secret meetings
Mr. Chair.
with the...
Point of order.
Okay, we've got a point of order from Ms. Barron here. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Point of order. The member knows full well that there is an amendment that was put forward that the NDP has stood up in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Unfortunately, I can't accept that as legitimate on a point of order. Perhaps that's something that you and Mr. Duncan can discuss for clarification later, but I can't rule that as being out of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Is it not a point of order when a member is misconstruing the intentions of another member or information that is false?
Ms. Barron, if you feel strongly about that matter, perhaps what we can do is allow Mr. Duncan to continue. If you hear what you deem to be some form of evasiveness of the truth, you can always raise a point of order again. I can pause briefly and provide a judgment to the committee, but perhaps we can give Mr. Duncan the benefit of the doubt to continue and see where this goes. Are you okay with that?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Mr. Duncan, I pause the time. There are 5 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I don't mind that intervention and point of order because it just shows how desperate the NDP are to separate themselves from the change of the election date when we found out last week that they were involved in exclusive secret meetings with the Prime Minister's office and the Privy Council Office, getting briefings and getting information. And they knew full well that the date of the election was going to be changed because this is not an elections bill. This is a pensions bill for NDP and Liberal MPs who were scared of losing their seats and missing out on their pension. So I just want to say, Mr. Terrazzano, the thing about the date of the election, one of the things we heard last week as well about not being able to move it up because it would interfere and hurt with summer. Do you just want to refute that to say that you think Canadians would be okay with an earlier election, including one that might start even before Labor Day or over the summer? Would that be okay?
Well, thank you very much for your question. And, you know, there's 350 days between now and October the 20th, 2025. 350 days. I have a lot of confidence in everyone in this room that you can figure out one of those 350 days to hold the election. And let's just pretend in some crazy world that it's impossible to hold an election on one of the 350 days between now and October 20th of next year. Okay, there's another simple option, right? Just move the pension eligibility back later.
Well, here's the thing about the summer that came last week and said, oh, well, when we looked at it and decided we couldn't do it during the summer because that's impractical, Labor Day it would break summer holidays, yet it was no problem for the Liberals to call the last election right in the middle of the summer that went over Labor Day, and they had no problem when it was opportunistic for them. But now, when it comes to their pensions, they want to move it back the other way by a week, fully in support, obviously, by the NDP, because this bill is part of their coalition agreement. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ms. Barron, on a point of order.
Thank you. The member knows full well that the information that he is portraying right now is inaccurate and false. And so I'd ask through you, Mr. Chair, that the member please check his facts. He knows that there's an amendment put forward by the NDP. He knows that what he is saying is inaccurate. And so I ask that the member please speak truth in his words at this committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Barron. I will ask Mr. Duncan to take that under advisement. However, during your round of questioning, of course, there'll be time for you to add the clarity that you feel may be necessary in response to him. Mr. Duncan, I'm going to return the floor to you for about 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
The truth is that the NDP and Liberals work behind the scenes in secret meetings. They were given access to PMO and PCO officials to draft this legislation. It is only after they've been caught out and called out for this being a pension protection program for NDP and Liberal MPs that suddenly they're outraged about it and that they're against it. They're only against it because millions of Canadians and taxpayers spoke out at how ridiculous and self-serving all of this was. I just want to narrow down.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Ms. Barron on a point of order.
I apologize, Mr. Speaker. I definitely don't want to be interrupting the member when there's false information that's coming forward. It is, of course, my responsibility to Canadians that I am calling it out. I'm wondering, Mr. Chair, if it's possible for a point of order for us to clarify if there's an amendment that was put forward to the clerk dated in June that speaks exactly to this item being removed.
So, Ms. Barron, unfortunately, we would be entering into debate at that point. I see Ms. Romanato on the same point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And on that point of order, I do want to say that under Standing Order 18 of Order and Decorum, page 12, the behavior using disrespectful language, using offensive words against a member, remarks which question the member's integrity, honesty, or character are out of order.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Romanato. I'm not sure I heard a breach of that particular portion of the standing order. However, I take the point that has been raised by Ms. Barron, and again, I will encourage all members to do their best to present facts as they are engaging in their remarks. So with that, we are going to return the floor to Mr. Duncan, who has about 3 minutes remaining.
The NDP drafted this legislation with the Liberals, and only after it got tabled, only after they got caught, and the blowback was so severe that they finally go and say, well, we want to make some changes. It's problematic. Some bills are parts of the bill are problematic. It's problematic for them because they got caught. And I want to narrow down in here, as Conservatives, we oppose this bill every step of the way for exactly the reasons that we outlined. We're not here for our pensions. We're here for an election now, earlier, sooner rather than later. And we opposed this self-serving move that the Liberals and NDP voted for at second reading, and that's why we're here. I want to use your numbers just to clarify and make sure Canadians are clear on this. With the Liberals and NDP coming together with this bill, both of them voting for it to get it here to committee in the current form, based on the numbers you had said, would I be correct that if the election date was moved back a week, this would be about at least $42 million in a pension guarantee if Liberal and NDP MPs were defeated? Would that be accurate?
It depends on, obviously, the results of the election, but it would be accurate to say that if you delay the election by 1 week, right, without moving the pension eligibility like we recommend, that this would cost taxpayers tens of millions of dollars in extra pensions for politicians, correct?
And I have at least, $42 million for the dozens of Liberal and NDP MPs that would qualify, including a quarter of the NDP caucus, just for the record as well. So now we know, again, this is a key part of their coalition agreement. They've said as much in public that this was a core part of their coalition deal that they had amongst each other, and now we know why, because it's not about adding a couple of advance poll voting days. It's not about foreign interference and combating and closing loopholes, because we've heard from several witnesses as the bill that they proposed together, there still are many loopholes that exist and are not filled that way. So I think at the end of the day, when we go back to this, I think a key part of this is the NDP were complicit the entire time. From an appropriateness perspective, do you think that it's appropriate when we're changing elections laws or doing these types of pieces of legislation, particularly changing election rules and details, the date of the election, do you think it's appropriate for one party to be given access to the Prime Minister's office and Privy Council Office briefings while the Bloc Québécois and Conservatives are shut out, not knowing anything about it?
Well, I'm not going to weigh into the partisan
here,
situation. I'll just keep it very brief. But if the government wants to prove that this is about avoiding a religious holiday and not about more pensions for more politicians, either make the election earlier or make pension eligibility later.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Mr. Bittold, 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, let's look at the history of this desire to postpone the election date by 1 week. Last week, from the very mouth of the representative of the Privy Council, Mr. Sutherland, that the Liberals and NDP secretly met and secretly prepared amendments to Bill C-65 that includes postponing by a week the elections date for 2025. That is something that we knew it was part of the agreement between the Liberals and the NDP. There's an iPolitics article dated the 20th of March, and I'll read it in English because unfortunately iPolitics is in English.
Updating Election Act in keeping with NDP Pact. MP Daniel Blakely negotiated the bill for the NDP. He appeared alongside Leblanc for what he said would likely be his last media availability on Parliament Hill. So, c'est vraiment clair que tout ce qui est dans...
So it's clear that everything contained in C65 was negotiated between the Liberals and the NDP. Mr. Terrazano, from the Taxpayers Federation, there was a survey that you published in February talking about what Canadians think about this one-week postponement. Could you tell us more about the results of that survey?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I believe you're referring to a Leger poll, right? A national Leger poll. And the poll shows that 63% of Canadians are against delaying the election to secure pensions for extra MPs. When you remove the undecideds, 80% of Canadians are against this. So it's not just the Canadian Taxpayers Federation that is against this. It's not just the Conservatives who've spoken out, the NDP who've spoken out, the Bloc who've spoken out. The vast majority of Canadians are against this, including people who vote for every party.
Mais voilà, Monsieur Terrazano, c'est ça l'affaire.
There you go, Mr. Terrazano. It's clear. The NDP started talking against the postponement by a week. When? In June, from what Ms. Barron just said, immediately after publication of the Leger survey, when they saw the reaction, the very negative reaction from Canadians. Mr. Berthold, there's a call to order.
Unfortunately, Mr. Duncan, all points of order
thank you,
will be
Mr.
recognized
Speaker.
until I hear what they're about. Ms. Barron, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to ask for some clarification. My name is being directly quoted here, and I don't think the facts are actually straight on that, around when this came forward. I was in the House of Commons standing in May, as well as the timing of this amendment coming forward in June. So there are some facts that perhaps the member can review his information before
thank you,
making
Ms. Barron.
accusations.
We're entering into debate. Should there be an issue with the ascribing of testimony, we'll make sure that we get that corrected for the record. I didn't hear, and I don't have those original documents in front of me, so I can't comment at the moment. Monsieur Berthold, je retourne la parole. OK, merci.
Me neither, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I do not have all the information the NDP is talking about. All I know, let me start. You have the floor for 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Me neither. All I know is that the scenario is plausible. Mr. Terrazano, if the other opposition parties vote along with us for us to replace this government before the 27th of February, you will be saving another pension, that of the leader of the NDP, who will be getting to 6 years of service in February. So maybe we need to go fast and make more others.
Monsieur Berthold, malheureusement, je dois te poser pour 1 minute. Ms. Barron, on a point of order.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, for the interruption. I was just hoping that we could find some relevancy to the information that's being provided right now and how it actually relates to this bill. I don't feel it is relevant. Thank you.
On this point of
Thank
order.
you, Ms. Barron. I'm not hearing anything from Monsieur Berthold that is veering outside of the realm of relevance.
But on this point of order.
Monsieur Berthold, au même appel à règlement, allez-y.
Oui.
On the same point of order, go ahead. Thank you very much, Chair. I was simply responding to one of the questions, one of the assertions that were made by Mr. Terrazano, who said that every pension that could be avoided to be given in advance to an MP should not be given. So I was simply clarifying that there was an additional pension. So that's the point I was trying to make. Thank you, Mr. Berthold. I give you back the floor for 1 minute, 30 seconds. Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, maybe a question for Ms. De Souza. A while ago, I clearly stated that the NDP was strongly involved in the drafting of this bill, Bill C-65, and since we've been hearing witnesses, there are at least 2 union reps that have expressed great disappointment regarding C65. Are you not disappointed? Because normally the NDP is supposed to represent the unions. It looks like they missed out on this with C65.
Through the chair, I thank Monsieur for the question. First of all, PSAC is nonpartisan. We believe in educating our members on all issues, and they then choose who they wish to vote for. So I just want to say that straight away. Secondly, our members have seen various governments be formed from various parties, and they have been loyal and they have worked hard under whatever government is formed. And so it's not up to me here at this point in time to comment on any singular party. What we're concerned is the formation of what entails this bill and how it's passed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je ne faisais...
Thank you, Chair. I was simply raising the fact that usually the NDP is known for representing unions, and unfortunately this time around they may have missed the boat. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.